Hi guys, I've got another violin pilgrimage coming up which I'm really excited about, and I wanted to just talk about it for a few moments. I'm going to be making a video and putting it in my original content channel, so I'll pop the links in the description and so on. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about this trip. So two places I want to go. I want to return back to the Ashmolean, one of my favourite ever museums that I've been to a number of times. The sheer quality of the antique violins that they've got in there, and notably the Messiah Stradivarius. But I'm going to do something a bit different this time as well. I'm also going to nip into the Bate collection, which I understand is quite nearby to the Ashmolean. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of things to do with those museums. So the Messiah Stradivarius is really the showpiece in the Ashmolean. It's one of arguably three, a triad of Stradivari's best ever instruments. That trinity of instruments being the Allard of 1715, the Dolphin Stradivarius of 1714, once owned by the maestro himself, Jascha Heifetz, and of course the Messiah of 1716, which is in mint condition, having virtually never been played. The Messiah was kept by Count Cosio de Salaberry, who purchased it from Paolo Stradivari. So it was a violin that was knocking about, one of 10 instruments I believe, knocking about in Antonio Stradivari's workshop, which after he died his son then sold to Salaberry. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correct. Salaberry then sold it to Luigi Tarisio. Luigi Tarisio was an interesting character. He was from a poor, humble background, and often had to walk to the countries he was going to with a pile of fiddles on his back. So he walked to Paris, he walked to Spain to sell these instruments. And it's not even certain if he could even read and write, but he was a genius in the sense that he perceived the value of these fine Italian instruments. Amatis, Guarneri del Jesus, and Strads, of course. And he built up a relationship with the great violin maker and dealer Violin. So he would take these priceless Stradivarius instruments to Violin and sell them, and Violin would then sell them on for a profit. And he kept talking about this extra special Stradivarius that he had in his possession, the one that he'd got from Count Cosio. But he would, and I think Violin kept trying to persuade him to bring it and sell it to him, but he never would. But after Tarisio passed away, Violin turned up at his house and then offered to buy all of the remaining violins in his house from his family. And thus he finally came into possession of the Messiah, or the Le Messi Stradivarius. Up until that point, his son-in-law Allard, I believe it was, said, "This violin is like the Messiah of the Jews. You keep waiting for it, but it never arrives." Or in the actual exact sentence in French, "Ah, ça, votre violon est donc comme le Messie. On l'attend toujours et il ne paraît jamais." So, but yeah, Tarisio couldn't bear to part from it in his lifetime, but then Violin purchased it from his estate. And just like Tarisio, Violin also could not part with this instrument. He guarded the Messiah jealously, keeping it in a glass case and allowing no one to examine it. Wow. Very precious violin indeed. But of course all of this would just only serve to preserve the violin. You know, Stradivarius couldn't part with it. Tarisio couldn't, Violin couldn't, it just kept it well preserved. Violin did allow it to be shown at the 1872 exhibition of instruments in the South Kensington Museum. That was its first appearance in England. After Violin's death in 1875, the violin became the property of his two daughters, then of his son-in-law, the violinist Allard. Can you imagine the joy Delphine Allard would have had playing on that? Then after Allard's death in 1888, his heirs sold the Messiah in 1890 to W.E. Hill and Sons on behalf of Mr. R. Crawford of Edinburgh for £2,600 British, at the time the largest sum ever paid for a violin. So that is the creme de la creme of the Ashmolean. I'm going to go and this time make a proper video and try and get it right, and try and get it as perfect as I can. Because my previous sort of visit to the Ashmolean, I was just kind of getting into the YouTube thing really. So this time around, I hope to do it justice. And of course, the Messiah is not the only treasure they have in the collection there. They've got 2 decorated Strads on display, the Rode and the Cipriani Potter, and of course a super rare instrument, one of only 5 or 6 surviving. They actually have a Stradivarius guitar there. They have Martis and Jakob Steiners and many other interesting violins. Check out these guitars. And even Strad make guitars as well. But then the second bit, something that I've never done, is the Bate collection, part of the University of Oxford. So what was I going to say about that? Oh, just one more thing to say about so the 3 best, according to, I think it's according to Nippon and some others, are the Allard of 1715, the Dolphin, Jascha Heifert's Strad of 1714, and then of course the Messiah, which is in mint condition, virtually unplayed. But the Lady Blunt and the Messiah are apparently the world's 2 best preserved Stradivari instruments. So back to the Bate collection then. It's in the Faculty of Music at Oxford University. It's one of the most comprehensive collections in Britain of woodwind, brass and percussion, ranging from European instruments to instruments from across the globe. Of course, it's the string instruments that I'll be making a beeline for. The Bate collection consists of the original Philip Bate gift of European orchestral woodwind instruments, plus many other instruments given and lent by Philip Bate throughout his life, and it lists some other donors as well contributed. I believe the collection's not in its final resting place. It's being housed in a temporary building at the moment, but it's still available, I believe, on certain days of the week between 2 and 5 or something like that. There is a website, just Google Bate collection and you can see. I've also made a video where I've attempted to show all the photos of the professional photos of the instruments that they've got in that collection, so I'll leave a link to that. So I'm really looking forward to that, and there are some very old instruments, if memory serves me correctly from what I've seen online, a particularly old English specimen of a violin, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. I don't think they have kind of like Martis or Strads in there, just got to nip across the road to the Ashmolean to get your fix of those, but some quite early instruments. So that's going to be fascinating. As I say, I'm going to make a violin pilgrimage video on this topic, and I'll leave the links. But yeah, really fired up about this visit to Oxford. I am gradually working my way through the list of museums where you can make violin pilgrimages in the UK. We don't have that many, but we really do have some exceptional ones. The Royal Academy of Music and the Ashmolean probably being the 2 standout ones of instruments. So I think the Royal Academy now is only open on Friday, so you have to time your visit there, but the Ashmolean is open normally, normal times. So if you're planning a visit to the UK and you want to see some fine violins, those are really the 2 main places to go. So that's it for this video, and I'm really looking forward to this trip. Ciao for now.